How are you going there today? Just a short note to give you a bit of info about what this video is going to be about. It's another drawing lesson. Today you're going to be drawing a hollow log, and you'll have the opportunity to be able to learn a little bit about sketching in nature using some shading and some values and some different things like that. During the course of the video you'll hear a few comments about modules and things like that. Don't worry too much about that stuff. That just relates to something I was doing previously, but it's not relevant anymore. I'll just put all these videos up and you can check them out and use them if you find them useful. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the lesson. Drop me a comment to let me know how you got on. The photo for this lesson is of a hollow log I saw while walking in the bush. I've simplified the reference photo to focus on the more important parts. In this module, we are focusing on learning more about shading as we delve further into values in drawing. Adding shading into the mix will take a bit more time to complete, so feel free to complete the drawing over several sessions if you like. We will begin with the HB pencil and we'll move to using a 4B pencil for the shading later in the drawing. I will let you know when to change. Start with drawing some construction lines on the page to help you get your placement correct. Draw two horizontal lines roughly 1/4 of the way from the top and the bottom of the page. Then draw two vertical lines roughly 1/4 of the way from the left and right side of the page. Draw these lightly because you will erase them again later. Using the square in the middle of the page as a guide, draw in the shape of the outside of the log lightly. Some of these lines may need to be adjusted, so draw with a light feathery touch as always in the beginning of a drawing. A log is not completely round, so look at the demonstration carefully for the shape. You can see in the demonstration that it may take several adjustments before you are happy with the shape. Inside the first shape, draw a second shape to indicate the hollow section of the log. This is a negative shape and will contrast against the positive shape of the log. Both of these shapes are organic, but can have small sections of geometric shapes inside the rough edges. The inner part of the log is defined by a darker section on top and a lighter section below. Draw this in as demonstrated, and the two sections will be finished by shading the areas in different values once the underdrawing is complete. Draw a diagonal line from the top right side of the log up to the top of the page. This is a tree next to the log. Next, erase the remaining construction lines to clean the page up. This will give you the chance to have a good look at your shapes before you begin adding the details. In the face of the log are many small lines, cracks and gaps where they have been eaten out. Adding in some of these will add character to your drawing and heighten the realism. Give your imagination some room to play here. The exact placement of the lines is not that important. Just think about the way the lines might run in the timber and enjoy the process of drawing in some lines and shapes. Continue working around the log. This is a good opportunity to clean up any remaining issues with the shape of the log as you draw in the cracks and splits. Feel free to press a bit harder in places to add variation. The lines and shapes I use are a combination of organic and geometric. The face of the log is a positive shape and the gaps and the cracks in it are negative shapes. Because the overall shape of the log is round, it is organic. Adding some lines that radiate out from the centre to the edge make this a radial design. This is a design type where the details emerge out from and revolve around a single central point. Think of the spokes of a wheel emerging from a hub. That is a classic example of a radial design. Artists will use different shapes when considering the overall design of an artwork. This is called composition. More on this in later lessons. Return to the tree trunk next to the log and draw in a diagonal line parallel to the side of the trunk. Next to this, draw in two curving lines to create a long, thin, slightly curving shape. These lines will help the placement of the shading to come. To the right of what you have just drawn, add another slightly curving line and add a tear-shaped section roughly level with the centre of the hollow log. Add three roughly horizontal wavy lines across the bottom of the trunk. Add some curving lines under the bottom of the hollow log. These will be to indicate areas where the shadows will be. Add three curving lines on the bottom of the page and to the left of the log. Then in the top, draw in an indication of a vertical tree trunk and a horizontal branch across the page. Finish with a couple of diagonal lines above the hollow log. All of these lines are to give a rough map of the other items in the drawing. Don't stress if yours aren't exactly like mine. Switch now to the HB pencil. The underdrawing is done and we are now beginning the shading. Starting at the top of the log, begin shading the shapes you drew in next to the cracks. Shade these using small circular motions and change to straight lines to make the edges straight where needed. If you go outside the lines, it isn't a big deal. You can always just correct the edge of the shape to make it look like you want to. Work your way around all the spaces in the log. Don't press as hard as you can, just let the darker pencil do its work. This value will be the lowest value of the drawing. Holding the pencil as flat as possible without rubbing the wooden part on the paper, start shading the top section of the hollow log. Use long strokes of the pencil in the hatching technique to fill in the area. Be careful to keep the edges tidy, as you don't want to change the shape of the hollow section. Once you have built up a layer in one direction, change direction of the pencil strokes and go back over the top using a cross-hatching technique. You can clean up the edges using small sections of circular shading to keep the edges neat. Continue this process until the entire section is the same low value as the small shapes you shaded previously. Sharpen your pencil as often as you need to keep the graphite exposed. Softer pencils will wear away faster than the HB, and you will need to sharpen them more often when shading large areas like this. If you wear it down to the wood, it will leave permanent marks in the paper that will be impossible to repair. Repeat the shading process on the lower section of the hollow. This time just use hatching and keep the pencil strokes vertical. This section will have a higher value because more light is shining on the bottom part of the hollow. Look carefully at the demonstration and try to match the value with your shading. Return to the top section of the hollow log and add one more layer of pencil. Make all these strokes in the same direction as the bottom section. Then add some extra darkness to the top half of the bottom section of the hollow. This will create a section of gradation where the lighter area of shadow at the front gradually darkens until it meets the darkest section at the back of the hollow. Begin shading the solid section of the log now. This area will be a mid-value and will be much lighter than the shadows in the hollow. Work your way around the log using light hatching. Follow the contours of the log as you go around so the lines of shading follow the circular shape. Continue shading until the entire surface is covered and then pause to evaluate the value. Compare it to the demonstration and keep adding layers until you think it is dark enough. You should still be able to see your lines and shapes underneath the shading. If you make it too dark, you can always lighten it again with the eraser. Move to the shadows under the log and shade these using hatching. these shadows will be quite low in value. Make them similar to the values you used in the lower section of the hollow. These shadows are important in the drawing because they ground the log, which up until now has been floating in mid-air. Move to the tree to the right of the log and using short curving lines fill in the left-hand area you have already marked. These lines will serve two purposes. They will represent the rough bark and will be the initial shading in the area. Just to the right of this, draw a rough curving line using short marks. This is an imperfection in the tree. Any kind of mark can be used for shading. When choosing which ones to use, think about what you are looking at and consider what it would feel like to touch. Then consider how certain lines make you feel and select the right one for what you are trying to achieve. Fill the long sliver-like shape with low-value shading and move to the area marked on the right side of this to put more short strokes, just like you did on the left side. Fill in the area on the left next to the log. Use a loose hatching technique to add shading to the entire area on the tree. Cover all of the areas you have drawn shading previously, as well as the areas that you haven't. Add an additional area of cross-hatching in the tear-shaped section on the tree to lower its value further. Adding this shading will bring the value of the tree more closely in line to the value on the hollow log. Add some scribbled wavy lines to the 3 horizontal lines at the base of the tree. Draw some lighter lines underneath each one. Very loosely add some loose hatching to the area. Just under the log, mark in a diagonal line and cross it with some vertical lines. Still very loosely, continue to fill the bottom of the page with hatching and loose marks. This section of the drawing will remain loose to keep the attention on the log. Return to the tree on the right and add additional scribbled shading to the very right-hand side. Add some additional darkness to the sliver shape in the middle. Return to the log and take a minute to sharpen the edge around it and go over any lines that you think have gotten lost in the surface. They don't all have to be dark, but adding some clarity to a few of them will make the log crisp and clear in the finished drawing. In the top left corner of the page, add some loose shading but keep the values high. Add some darker areas to the tree trunk and the branch, but keep everything lighter than the values in the middle and the bottom of the page. You can add a few scribbled lines to indicate sticks or trees, but keep it very simple. Finish your drawing by adding any last-minute touches you like. In the demonstration, I've drawn some sticks and bark in the foreground. The background is deliberately vague, as adding too much detail would just make the drawing look busy and would detract from the log and the tree at the front. Congratulations! You have completed another drawing. No doubt you will have noticed that these are taking a bit longer than the last module. This will be the case, but guess what? It means that you are getting better, and you're completing more complex drawings with a higher degree of finish than before. In this drawing, you've used a wide array of lines and shapes to create a realistic log. You've used a variety of shading techniques, and you've captured low, mid, and high values. So celebrate your achievement. And then, when you're ready, move on to the next lesson. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next study. So how did you get on? Did you enjoy that one? Did you get something out of it? I hope it was useful to you, and I hope you were able to do a good drawing. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like. I really appreciate that. Anyway, thanks very much. I appreciate your time. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.